Satariel, the shadow of understanding. Integrated quality, Bina, understanding and structure. Bina, meaning understanding, represents the capacity to receive, contemplate, discern, and give form to truth. Where wisdom provides inspiration, understanding cultivates comprehension. It patiently receives insight and allows it to mature into clarity. Bina teaches that genuine understanding cannot be rushed. It requires humility, reflection, and patience. It asks us to remain open long enough for truth to reveal itself rather than forcing reality to conform to our existing beliefs. Understanding is not the accumulation of knowledge. It is the transformation that occurs when knowledge becomes lived wisdom. When Bina is integrated, structure serves truth. Beliefs remain flexible. Certainty gives way to continual learning. The mind becomes a vessel rather than a prison. The shadow, Satariel, the shadow of understanding. Within the symbolic framework of this book, Satariel represents the fragmentation of understanding. Where Bina receives truth with openness, Satariel conceals truth behind rigid structures, unquestioned assumptions, and fixed beliefs. The individual gradually becomes more attached to understanding than to truth itself. Knowledge becomes certainty. Certainty becomes identity. Identity becomes resistance. The shadow is not structure. Without structure, there can be no learning. The shadow arises when structure ceases serving truth and begins protecting itself. The map becomes more important than reality. Belief becomes more important than discovery. The mind slowly closes around conclusions it no longer questions. Understanding gives way to certainty. Repression and suppression. When Satariel becomes repressed or suppressed, the individual begins fearing understanding itself. Questions become uncomfortable. Complexity becomes overwhelming. Reflection is avoided. The individual may surrender their capacity for discernment to external authorities, believing others are better equipped to understand than they are. Independent thought gradually weakens. Curiosity becomes passive acceptance. The individual no longer seeks understanding, they simply inherit it. Yet borrowed understanding can never replace lived understanding. Truth must eventually become one's own. Possession. When Satariel becomes possessed, the opposite occurs. The individual becomes deeply attached to their own understanding. Beliefs become unquestionable. Being wrong feels threatening. Every new idea is measured only by whether it confirms what is already believed. Learning quietly stops. knowledge becomes identity. The individual mistakes certainty for wisdom. Questions become unnecessary because answers appear complete. Yet certainty that no longer welcomes understanding gradually closes the very door through which wisdom enters. The mind closes not because truth has ended, but because curiosity has. Universal pattern. Satariel represents the archetypal fragmentation of understanding. Consciousness forgets that truth is living and begins imprisoning it within fixed concepts. Understanding becomes concealment rather than revelation. Collective unconscious. Collectively, Satariel appears wherever institutions, ideologies, traditions, or belief systems become more concerned with preserving certainty than pursuing truth. Questioning becomes discouraged. Dogma replaces inquiry. Humanity begins defending inherited conclusions rather than exploring reality with fresh eyes. Individual psyche. Within the individual, Satariel appears through intellectual pride, fear of uncertainty, unquestioned assumptions, rigid beliefs, mental laziness, dependence upon authority, and resistance to perspectives that challenge existing identity. The psyche gradually becomes organized around protecting certainty rather than expanding understanding. The world in daily life, Satariel becomes visible through our actions. We dismiss unfamiliar perspectives without exploring them. We repeat beliefs we have never personally examined. We argue to preserve our conclusions rather than deepen our understanding. We refuse to admit when we are mistaken. We avoid difficult questions because they threaten our certainty. Our behavior quietly reveals whether our understanding remains alive or has become rigid. Reflection. Spend a few moments reflecting upon your relationship with understanding. Ask yourself, which expression of Satariel has shaped my life more deeply, repression or possession? Do I seek understanding or simply confirmation? What beliefs have I never deeply examined? Where do I avoid uncertainty? What perspectives make me immediately defensive? When was the last time I genuinely changed my mind because I discovered something truer? Am I allowing truth to reshape me or asking truth to fit the structures I already possess? Recognition is the beginning of deeper understanding, for only the mind willing to remain open can continue to grow.